So I found this yesterday, and it was from an article called "The Guardian Angel" in the Theosophical Forum from 1942. The solar angel is a the theosophical term for higher self. So, for those of you that are familiar with what theosophy is, theosophy was a philosophy, an esoteric philosophy that looked at Hinduism, Buddhism, the Greek mysteries, the Egyptian mysteries. It was a synthesis of all the mystical and esoteric teachings of the various traditions, uh, comprised by a woman named H.P. Blavatsky, Helena Petrova Blavatsky. She was born in the mid 1800s, Russian nobility, and she was dissatisfied with this life that she was set up with, arranged marriage, and she left and got on a train and went to Tibet and was one of the first Westerners in the depths of those regions in the world. And she claimed to have met these masters in those mountains that revealed to her this knowledge that she um, explains in a series of books, but the most famous one is called The Secret Doctrine, and the other one is Isis Unveiled, where she really explains her whole philosophy, but also the nature of previous civilizations. So all of the stuff that like we take for granted in the New Age now, with like Atlantis and Lemuria, and these previous cycles, and notions that you hear about, like the seven planes of existence or the seven rays, or the great masters that oversee the progress of humanity. This is all Blavatsky. That's all secret doctrine theosophy. The Theosophical Society basically died in the uh, with the advent of J. Krishnamurti. So Blavatsky passed away. Two new leaders came to the forefront: Charles Leadbeater and Annie Besant, and they raised a boy named J. Krishnamurti to become the next Messiah. And it's a great story if you've ever, yeah, well, we can talk about that another day. But J. Krishnamurti is a very famous non-duality teacher. Um, but he was originally trained in all of this very esoteric stuff. Some situations in his life made him completely disavow the esoteric doctrines that he was raised with, and became a teacher in his own right. So here's the quote: "The only difference between the ordinary man on the one hand and the Christ man and the Buddha man on the other is this: that we ordinary men have not succeeded in becoming absolutely at one with the guardian angel within, and the Buddhas and the Christs have. The Buddha or Christ is one who has made himself, his whole being, his heart, so pervious to the entrance of the guardian angel within him that the guardian angel within him has actually embodied himself, so that the lower man is scarcely any longer there. It is then the guardian angel that speaks with the lips of flesh. It is the Bodhisattva, the inner Christ." G. D. Peruker. This was from 1942. Another quote from the same author: "You can call it the higher self, but I prefer to call it the spiritual self, man's inmost entity. The guardian angel, the spiritual self, is like a god compared with the man of flesh. Compared with his knowledge, it has omniscience. Compared with his vision, it has vision of the past, the present, and the future, which three really are but one eternal now in the ever present. This guardian angel will always strive and is incessantly striving to guide its willful, errant child, the man of flesh. There is the whole thing in a nutshell. If you can make your mind pervious to this inner monitor and follow its mandates, your life will be safe and happy and prosperous." So this is exactly what we're talking about and describing. And it's always fantastic to find quotes from over like almost 100 years ago of people describing in their own terms a similar thing. This author prefers the term spiritual self and guardian angel. In our work we use higher self primarily as the word for the same thing. So what's very pronounced about the higher self when it's experienced is this experience or particular quality of omniscience, or being able to see into to experience time completely differently than we do down here, quote down here. In our linear dimension, our physical dimension, we really see and experience time as a sequence of events, like this particular incarnation is happening now. But what becomes very apparent and what's obvious from the higher self plane is that these various incarnations are they appear to be still existing. Like, it's completely outside of linear time as we're aware of it. And because it's this repository of all the experiences of thousands of incarnations, compared to just the one life that we remember in this physical body, it is a form of it's omniscient compared to our physically oriented mind that we only our memory begins with around 4 or 5, and it leads up to this point. But when we access the higher self plane, this is really where the past life knowledge, the knowledge of our other incarnations or other lives becomes accessible. Okay, so we'll go to the um, main point here, which is that having the intention to connect with our higher self is the driving factor behind this work. So it doesn't matter whether you try a particular method, right? Like, you could try anything. For example, you could say that I'm going to worship this twig, this branch for the next 90 days. And at the end of these 90 days, I will have an experience of the higher self. And you can actually do that. You can actually like do prostrations to a branch, and you see the branch as your higher self, and you'd be surprised at what would happen by doing this every day. So I'm not giving you the advice to go and worship a branch, but it's the same analogy. Like, when we actually just sit in meditation and we have this intention to connect with the higher self, that intention alone is the driver behind whatever technique that we do. So what we'll do in meditation today before we actually use Focus 12 is we'll spend a few minutes just having this initial intention. Now, the main thing that some of you may be sensing, or may feel in response to that, is like, well, I haven't experienced the higher self, so what is it that I'm intending towards, right? Like, I'm just I'm just wandering through the dark here, okay? So I get that. Just have the intention and see what happens. See if you begin to sense anything, like a sense of closeness or a sense of being held. Um, if you can sense a presence at all, this is useful. So like what I do is I've had dreams where the contact is pretty clear. So like what happened in a dream a month ago was I laid down on the couch. I had a spiritual book on my like I laid it over my face to block out the light, and this guru or master looking person showed up and just said, "Write a book with this title. So that that particular moment, it has like an energy signature. Like that being that showed up in that interaction, it feels a certain way to me. So if you've ever had a moment in your life where you felt like some higher intelligence or God or Buddha or whatever it is you want to call it, a higher power stepped in and helped you or protected you or gave you solace, that is a perfect example of what to intend towards when we do this exercise. Any sense of something miraculous that happened in your life and you were just like, wow, I can't believe that that occurred. What a divine transpiration of events there. Or the sense that things were moved around for you so that you can have an optimal outcome or a safer outcome. Whatever it is that allows you to have this sense that something is watching over you or that something has been guiding you. So that may be different for everyone. That could appear differently, but just that sense of when you say the word higher, like what does your mind go to? It doesn't have to be an image. It can just be a feeling, or it could be something that doesn't really fit categories, but you get what I'm talking about. So when we intend, and we can just start this now, you can get into a meditative um, position. I think what works really well is to you can have your palms open, either on your lap or you can have them raised. And just have the sense of connecting with the higher power. You can even say the words, I now connect with my higher self, or you can say command higher self now and see what follows. I receive my higher self now. I am open to the higher self. Again, I connect with my higher self now. Just gently maintain that intention. might notice that it feels a little more like prayer than meditation. Hey, very good. Very good, everyone. So we'll begin with focus 12. And um, when we're using focus 12, there's a transition point from Bob Monroe. He'll say 10, 11, 12. You're now in focus 12. What I'd like you to do is right when he gets to 10, remember the feeling that you just had when doing this short higher self meditation or the short intention to the higher self. So that's it. The links for focus 10 and 12 are in the Google Calendar, so you can access them. Pull those up now. I'm going to end the recording here.